Hi, my name is Bas and let's get to painting.
Today we will be painting this leather apron from Blight King set using next colors, which are Tenebrous Grey, Hull Red, Tan Earth, Skeleton Legion from two thin coats, and Agrax Earthshade from Citadel. Also, we will use white color, but you can use pretty much any white color that you like. First thing first, we will cover all the apron with Tenebrous Grey from AK Interactive, leaving no primer color visible. And I just can't get enough of this color. I find myself using it in almost every miniature I paint. As you can see, this color not particularly grey. Looks like some kind of blackish purple, and I will totally encourage you to give it a try. Once the apron is fully coated with Tenebrous Grey, just let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes to dry nicely. And when the color is fully dry, we will be moving to the next step. For the next layer, we are mixing our last color with the Hull Red in a 1:1 ratio. We'll cover most of the surface with this mix, allowing the original color to remain visible in the deepest crevices. Make sure to give a paint enough time to dry before moving on. Now, we'll take pure Hull Red and start building up the texture on the apron. We begin by covering roughly 70% of the previous layer with Hull Red. Using tapping motions, mostly in the lower parts of the apron, we create a texture that resembles worn leather. With these tapping motions, we are also covering about 70% of the previous color. At this point, it's beginning to take on the look of worn, rugged leather. We are now creating a 50-50 blend of Tan Earth and Hull Red. Using the same motions, we'll apply it more selectively, keeping it within a smaller area to build up texture and highlights. Here you can see I'm using more precise tapping motions, covering roughly 60% of the previous layer. I completely forgot to record the previous step once it was fully dry. I will try to be more attentive next time. Nevertheless, now we'll take pure Tan Earth and repeat the same process as before, this time covering a smaller area. The secret lies in covering a slightly smaller area with every new layer of color, which builds up a natural-looking light and shadow effect. For the next step, we'll create a glaze by mixing tan earth and hull red in equal parts, then thinning it with about 3 to 5 parts water. I usually test the mix on my thumb to check the dilution. Then apply it all over the entire apron, brushing from the darker areas toward the lighter ones. I am now going back to fill in the deepest shadows using a 50-50 mix of hull red and tan earth, since I had skipped that part earlier. It really helps the material look more realistic. I'm applying the mix between the darkest recesses to suggest subtle light reflection from the apron. Now it starts to look more like rough leather, but let's move on to our next step. Using pure tan earth, we continue building up the highlights on the leather, focusing smaller spots centered within the previous layers. Don't forget to add edge highlights on the upper facing parts of the apron as well. In this step, we're using a thin glaze made from tan earth and 3 to 4 parts water. As usual, we test it on the thumb to ensure a proper dilution. This time, as we glaze from dark to light, we make sure not to touch the shadow areas, because light glaze like this could dirty them. I repeat the glazing process 2 or 3 times to achieve the desired result, but make sure to let each layer dry properly before applying the next one. With each step, we are getting closer to the final result, just a little bit more to go. By mixing Skeleton Legion with the tan earth in the equal parts and adding a little bit of water, we get a tone that helps us continue highlighting the leather. Focus your brush strokes and tapping motion in the center of the previous highlight. Try to apply the paint gently. This helps achieve a soft, realistic gradient across the surface. Add 3 to 4 parts of water to our 50-50 mix of Skeleton Legion and tan earth to create a thin glaze. Apply it to the apron, focusing mainly on the highlight areas, while avoiding the shadows and most of the midtones. Repeat this process 2 or 3 times to create a smooth transition. Don't forget to give each layer a proper time to dry. In this step, we're using pure Skeleton Legion with just a touch of water to improve the flow. Apply to even smaller areas to further enhance the highlights. Unfortunately, I went out of focus here. Please accept my apologies on this matter, as I'm still learning how to do it all. The leather apron is mostly finished, but there are still few more steps we can take to improve the final look. I'll be using a Ceramite White from Citadel for this step, though any white will do. I mix it 1:1 with the Skeleton Legion and add 2 parts of water, as white acrylics are usually quite thick and need extra dilution. This mix will be used to pick out the brightest peaks and the tiniest highlight spots on the leather. It is already looking good, but we will add few extra steps to smooth everything out. Now we are diluting the previous mix of white and Skeleton Legion to a glaze consistency by adding another 2 to 3 parts of water. As always, we test it on a thumb to ensure the dilution is right. This time we'll glaze only the brightest areas of the apron, moving from the dark to light, while avoiding shadows and mid-tones entirely. Our leather is done at this point. You can stop here if you like, but I highly recommend the next step to really unify the look. Take Agrax Earthshade and dilute it with the 2 to 3 parts of water to create a filter, a light glaze that softly tints the leather and ties everything together. Apply it across the entire surface. Make sure the mix is nice and thin. You can add extra layers depending on the effect you want to achieve. And with that, the leather is finished. This time for real. Be proud of your work and remember, this technique can be applied to any area of the miniature where it feels right. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
And that's it, all said and done. If you find this video useful, give it a like, share, and most important, don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you at the desk.